we initiated or helped to create grassroots trade union of supermarkets, as I mentioned before. He's a very active and committed member of this trade union. And so Tomas will talk today, this afternoon, about youth activism in Lithuania. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. For me it's quite complicated to speak about youth activism because I have a quite controversial opinion on that. Because in my experience it's not big. I'm about 30 years old in 2 years, so I would say that even formally I wouldn't call myself a youth activist, although we have this 29 years old bridge between adult and the youth. But let me tell you a small story about my youth activism, like from a personal perspective. So I started to work with several youth projects maybe 10 years ago, and it was in my first years in the university. I studied political science, and what I have discovered maybe after 2 years of activism in Vilnius Youth Council and in one political organization, and also with smaller projects, including environmental projects, I discovered that it is extremely important for the youth to not to concentrate that much on the youth. Maybe it sounds very strange, but I was like maybe 22 or 23 years old, and I have faced my colleagues in the youth organizations that were like 30, 35, and they still call themselves the youth, and they were like participating in the ruling councils of many different youth organizations, and it was considered cool and nice and fine, but what I've been doing, I was fighting against this youth name to many projects. I'm generalizing a lot. I even forgot many details on those things, but general thought was that too old people are concentrated on the youth, and when the person is older than 22, I think that it's no longer youth at all, and you can start working with very important and very interesting projects and don't call it a youth activity. Because what we see, the revolution in Egypt was done by the youth in general, but it was, I mean, this is not important if it's youth or not youth. So
we can change the topic.
Yeah,
revolutionary activism.
Yeah, activism in Lithuania. So the concept of youth make this activism quite elitary, and this brings to kind of stagnation, especially in Lithuania. I'm speaking about Lithuania. I'm not that aware of other countries, but I think it's quite human to be too long in one position and in the leader position of one or the other organization. So even today I have my colleagues that are long after 30s, and they still call themselves the youth. They still call themselves the youth activists, and they make their careers in the parties or in the bigger organization as if they are youth. And this is quite disattracting for me. So I try to concentrate on the work in general and never call myself youth. Maybe in the first years, and I think it helped me a lot to participate in the real work, in the real activism, even I was called a lot that you are too young, you are too stupid, and blah 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 by the very old politicians and society leaders. But I think it's important not to concentrate on your own social group. So in recent years I was concentrating mostly on in my activism work on two main things, I would call. One thing is trade unionism, which is quite new in this country. Not many young people at all participate in trade union activities. I would say that it's mostly dominated by the old men, old women trade unions, and I even faced the period of disintegration of big youth trade union organization, which is now no longer existing in Lithuanian Labor for the Federation. It was created maybe 5 years ago and it no longer exists, just because that young people are not that attracted on labor activism, although I think it's very important. Because so many young people work in very precarious conditions in many sectors of the economy and also public sector. My particular trade union, which I am involved in, is mostly has young members, but I would call it young members from very socially marginalized society groups. And they lack knowledge, they lack experience, and it is extremely difficult to work in that environment. But yeah, that interests me a lot, because I'm repeating myself. It was quite boring for me to work in the same environment of, so to say, Vilnius youth avant-garde, the best of the best in Vilnius, always meeting with each other, having good projects with a lot of money and with a lot of, with not many results, but a lot of talking and kind of visual activity. But to say some statistical things, youth still doesn't vote. I mean, it's like statistics say that youth doesn't vote at all. They are not involved in political activity. Although we have very strong and very rich organizations that are working with this issue, and they're claiming that they are working with this, like Youth Council of Lithuania. You can find a lot of veterans there with very big biographies of youth work, but like nothing has changed. Youth still doesn't vote, and is not that active in public and in the social work in a broad sense. The other part of my activities is environmental activity, I would say, and I think I was told that you were connected to that. All of you are somehow environment activists.
Mm-hmm.
So that's very interesting for me. I would say that I have only started with this issue. I haven't done a lot of things on that, but maybe I can name some of the facts. And the third thing to say, that in my maybe couple of years ago I have discovered very interesting sphere of work for me, and also very important work for the youth, and that is adult education. What I like is this. I mean, it's the crucial point, I think, for any East European society, to promote the adult education work. And exactly the youth can do a lot in this. And it is really completely a big lack of projects, a big lack of analysis in this area. It's almost not financed by the government or by the educational system. So the youth got a lot. The youth got the education for free, more or less. We can discuss the details, but in general you have the public schools and you have the universities. But education doesn't stop when you are 25. So after 25 you're not educated at all. And there is not enough projects, or let's call it projects, for the people that are older, to get the knowledge about the society, to get the knowledge about how the political system works, what are the trade unions for, or what are the NGOs for. So what I'm focusing myself is adult education in two main areas. It's trade unionism and environment awareness, I would say.